Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, had a story the titled Murky Future for Pac-12 Finds Shred of Clarity, with ESPN appearing out as option for primary media rights. What he is saying here in his report was that for the first time publicly, we're not doing anything with the Pac-12. A Big 12 administrator aware of the exchange told him on a condition of anonymity. The Tier 1 rights is what I think Dennis is reporting here, but I don't think they were ever involved in that either. And as soon as that story came out, and he's talking about the Tier 1 rights, which we all have thought maybe that's going to be Apple Plus, Bob Thompson, Patrick Crates, our good friend Jim Williams, who's been on with us too, immediately, like within maybe minutes, Nicole Auerbach and also Ross Dellinger came out with their own responses to that. And in both cases, basically said that ESPN is still involved. In fact, Nicole Auerbach's was the Pac-12 and ESPN met as recently as today, after also saying ESPN remains a bidder for the Pac-12 Tier 1 rights. That's with The Athletic, Ross Dellinger with SI, and Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports.
I am so, and all three of these reporters are great at what they do, and they're not included in this. I just want the Pac-12 to get their bleeping TV deal done, so we can.
Why don't they
stop.
get at least an offer first?
Yeah, just get an offer, get it done. Let's figure out what's going on. This wild speculation it's getting me such a headache. I know that there's a lot of people in the chat room who love this intrigue and love that the possibility that this conference could break up and people could go anywhere, and that'll be interesting to discuss if it happens or when it happens. But this whole, this company's in, they're out, they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out. I'm to the point of just figure it out, Pac-12, and whoever you're partnering with, please.
Yeah, the only thing that I know for sure is that Ross and Nicole were having to have been standing by each other and having the same conversation, because the tweets were 30 seconds apart, and they were the exact same thing, basically. Yeah. So I guess that's the one thing I do know is they were very clearly in the same vicinity and probably talking to the same person within a foot of each other, or around that, because it was boom, boom, and not only are they not out, they're still in it for the tier, that kind of a deal. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, I do feel like when we're getting into this territory where it's reporters dueling of he said, no, he said, or she said, no, she said, I do think that's where it starts to jump the shark a little bit. I'm interested in the TV side of it. I think it's interesting to listen to guys like Bob Thompson explain that part of the deal. But, the whole, both you're lying, no, you're lying, no, you're lying, this whole propaganda, accusations that are being thrown around, and then just some of the people who are very clearly rattling off stuff that they don't know what they're talking about, but they're doing it because they're getting interaction on social media. And that's not Nicole or Ross. That's some of the other people.
Or Dennis.
That's some, others or other that's, taking full advantage of the speculation and just continues to churn it out as though things are happening every 30 seconds. So I think just everywhere you look, it's kind of gotten to the point where it's just a little crazy. And for some people, that might have been a long time ago. I'm still interested in the story itself, but all of the extracurricular, mudslinging, I guess, is what I'm not that interested in. I feel
lines have been drawn.
Yeah, I saw one of the Pac-12 guys had some, paywall article that was mudslinging, and I don't know what it said, but I'd imagine it was saying something probably about Dennis Dodd or whatever. And, then there's Dodd saying what he said, and then there's, again, the immediate response by those two of, nuh-uh, that's not true. So I don't know who's talking to who. I mean, very clearly they're talking at least to somebody from the Pac-12 last night, or from ESPN, I suppose. And Dennis, I don't know who he's talking to. I do know this. If there is somebody in the Big 12 that's outright just getting him or someone else to just stir the pot, I don't like that. I don't know if that's happening here or not, but whatever he was told from whoever he was told that by, it was refuted so quickly that it makes it look a little bit silly, right? And so I just think that, there's obviously some plays that are being made and people are being tactical in some ways, but don't just throw crap out there. You know what I mean? That's what I don't enjoy. So somewhere along, there's clearly somebody's wrong in last night's report.
Okay, I don't know who. Maybe everybody's right, but again, you're right.
I'm not talking about the reporters themselves. I'm saying whoever's throwing that information out there to do whatever their intention is, quit doing that crap.
He is saying that this is a Big 12 administrator aware of the exchange, told CBS Sports under the condition of anonymity. That's a source. We're not doing anything with the Pac-12. That is from, according to the Big 12 administrator, what ESPN has told the conference. Everyone was kind of together in the same spot this past week, this past 2 or 3 days. I think most everyone is back home. So there was that. Now, I do know this, that there's a lot of smoke, but there has been smoke for months. And if anyone, let's say 2 months ago, if I would have said 2 months ago, if in fact one of the teams gets antsy in the Pac-12 and decides to move or at least start serious flirtation, who would you have said it 2 months ago would be?
Arizona.
Okay. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, one of those same, them or, no, probably just them. Yeah, I guess because the whole other schools that are mentioned, they're not nearly as much of a, not a sure thing, but as seems like it's more reasonable to assume that Arizona is more on board with potentially looking around than the others seem to be, no matter how often they're mentioned. It just seems like that door's cracked a little more open, just based on the feel and all of the talk, even though that's, not necessarily something that's super on record, but just things add up to make sense that they could be the one to want to do that.
And Robbins has been quoted as saying, just like I think maybe a handful of other presidents in the Pac-12, that once we see the deal, then we'll decide what we need to do. And I'm paraphrasing that. Colorado might be the one now that is, and you would think that would make sense because they have the buffalo that leads the herd, but it appears that Colorado, based on a lot of just intel, could perhaps be the one that leads the way, that they might be the first one that would go out the door. I'm not reporting they are the first one, but what I'm saying, that could happen. And then if that happens, then of course you could open up the dam. Who knows? There has been some reporting. In fact, some within our site have talked about Colorado and the Big 12 having some sort of a powwow. I've seen different dates on that. Not sure when that might happen. But that overshadows what still may happen when it comes to basketball with Gonzaga. That's still out there. And even now, the interest that it could add a secondary basketball team that's basketball only that might be on the radar. The Big 12 just met. We don't have Mac this week because of those meetings. Perhaps we'll have Mac Rhodes next Tuesday and maybe get him to tell us a little bit, and we'll try to get even more information before then.
Yeah, to go back to just the whole thing, I don't think that a Big 12 administrator is necessarily just outright lying to Dennis Dodd, because that would be a kind of a stupid move. That would just burn a bridge that you would like to have in this industry. It would be pointless to burn that bridge over something as silly as just throwing out a rumor. So I trust that he got his information that from somebody who believes that information. But I'm saying somewhere somebody's getting fed the wrong line, and that needs to be dug out, because you can't have he said, and they're all saying the opposite things of each other.
What if he is actually the Big 12 administrator, has legitimate information, and then somebody is then saying, hey, no, that's not true, just because we've seen people react to whatever one side has said compared to the others based on reporting.
I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. Yeah. I'm saying whoever on either side is feeding the BS, quit feeding the BS. Because, yes, it very well could, because I definitely saw this happen, and this happens all the time on these things. So Dennis Dodd has his report. Every Big 12 fan and whoever else jumps on that and treats it like gospel, and that's correct. And then, as soon as the other report comes out, every Pac-12 fan pops up and they believe that article. Well, I wonder why you believe that article and not the other one, because there's just as much of a chance that the Dodd article is right as there is that the Auerbach and Dellinger article is right. Now, you may think, no, they've got to have better sources. Not necessarily. So really all it is two different stories about the same thing coming from different viewpoints, and somebody's full of it. Somebody, and not the reporters themselves, but somebody source-wise is full of it to some extent, and I just wish that would all get cleared up. But I know that's part of the deal. It's part of the speculation. And so we'll see in the end, because somebody's going to be proven, ultimately right on this, whoever that is. And Dennis Dodd may be able to crack open a cold one and just laugh his butt off for all we know, because there's just as good of a chance as that happening as the other side of it happening. And that's why the premature celebrations over, no, this report's right because this is what my side
Yeah.
says. I just think that's kind of silly a little
If
bit.
everything that has been discussed by either those who don't report or those who are now trying to become experts in the situation, let's see, Washington and Oregon would be in the Big Ten. Stanford and Cal would be in the Big Ten. Or let's see, wait a minute, Oklahoma State would be, or Kansas would be in the Big Ten. Let's see, Arizona and Colorado. It's nuts. And that's why throwing something, again, not so much any reporters, but there is like throw something against the wall. If it sticks, then you're good forever, right? But the 93 other times you're wrong, if you're just somebody throwing it out there, that's when you can really hurt yourself. And I've seen that with some that are not a part of any media. You don't have to be a part of media and not have information. Here's an interesting note. The fundamentals still remain an issue with the Pac-12. No matter what it is going to be, whether it's Apple Plus and ESPN, or whether it's Apple Plus and some other linear TV, or whether it's Amazon, whoever it might be, because that is very much the million-dollar question. The length of the contract could be an issue that may never change, that might be something that you just can't get through. The linear percentage, which we've discussed forever, and I never thought that ESPN was still involved in the Tier 1 rights anyway. So then when that kind of came out last night, that was surprising to me. And then the bottom line is, let's say ESPN is still involved. Let's say they are. Or today they are. They weren't yesterday. Are they going to, like, overpay for that? Are they just going to, like, go, just here's a dump truck of money?
No.
So
It'd be a bad look after they're firing 7,000 more employees
Yes.
over the next few weeks
So
and months.
the length of contract, the linear percentage, and then even the bottom line of what kind of money would be offered, even if they were interested in being a Tier 1 rights holder from the Pac-12. It's that those things sometimes get overlooked when it comes to all of this, when it comes to media deals and so much more. We got to get to Max Olson. You got one more thing to add?
I mean, I trust reporters on either side. All the people involved, I think they do good work. And I'm just one of those that's not really going to dig a line in the sand and say, well, this person's right because this is what my opinion thinks, or this person's wrong because of that as well. Again, ultimately, time will play out and somebody will be proven right or wrong in some form or fashion. But I guess I'm just speaking to whoever's feeding one side or the other the BS. I just wish they'd cut it out. And I know there's motives for that and whatever, but I just think like an incident like last night just makes people look bad. And I don't like that for people who are just trying to do their jobs because somebody's getting fed some wrong information. So I just wish that part of it, kind of the disinformation and that stuff, would get out of the way and just let this thing play out. But I know that's part of the fun as well, the speculation side of it, and that's what really sets it on fire and makes it the inferno that it is for shows like this.
And again, what Dennis was reporting was Tier 1. They could still be a part of the Tier 2 or could be a part of
But
anything.
the article refuted that.
Yeah, well, the others did. Yeah, the others said that they're still involved with that. We're now joined by Max Olson, the Athletic.